Hello to one and all watching this interview. It is my great pleasure to be conversing with Mr. Suprio today. I have known him, I have followed him on Twitter. He has extensively worked in the field of advertising, and his platform, Your Marketing List, comes up with a unique model wherein it helps brands get the right set of freelancers according to their needs, understanding their requirements. So it's a pleasure, sir. Welcome to this interview. Would love to talk a little more. I would like to begin by asking sir a little about how you initially entered into this field, how you might have built interest in and around advertising. What inspired you to take it up?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Hetansh. So I actually started off after my management education. I started off actually in sales. So I started in Godrej and Boyce, and I used to set up distribution networks for selling various office equipment products. So I used to travel extensively, first in Maharashtra, then I became the regional manager of the South. So all across the 4 southern states, but I was based in Bangalore. Sales was very exciting because you saw numbers, targets, all that is very exciting for a young man and for me. I'm very, very target-oriented person. But after a point of time, it started getting a little repetitive in the sense it used to be about scale. The learning was a little less. In parallel, I had a friend who used to work in an advertising company in Chennai, and one of his offices was also in Bangalore. And he used to regularly come to Bangalore, and they used to talk about, they used to meet in Bangalore, where you meet in a pub, and we used to discuss, the 2 office managers used to strategize about a pitch or a brand that they were trying to pitch for. Advertising lives on pitching, right? So, and I used to be there because I was great friends with both of them, drinking beer and listening to them. And I found their conversation really fascinating because one day they're talking about a washing machine brand. The other day they're talking about a clothing brand. It was exciting because I found that the variety of industries they covered and the thinking that I used to think about advertising as, people make some ads and release it. And I first realized that there's a lot of thinking going on here. A lot of strategy going on here, a lot of really hard research work that you have to do to come up with those brilliant ads that we see on TV. So that's when I decided to switch. And that's when my love for advertising started. I was very fortunate. I joined a company which had a lot of teachers and brands. They were all stars in their own right. It was a company that now doesn't exist, called Clarion. It got absorbed by Bates, and Clarion had a whole host of very senior people who, more than doing advertising for clients, took it upon themselves to teach young people how to do proper advertising. So I really learned the art of how to write a brief, how to do research, how to think in a structured manner about industry, competition, macro movements, all that goes into creating great strategy. So that grounding made me really fall in love with advertising. And then I moved to Bombay, and I was last year there in Bombay working for Lintas, and that was also great. So and after that, I got a great opportunity because I'm basically a lover of brands. I love building brands, creating something useful to leave behind. And I got an opportunity to work for The Economist. It was one of my favorite brands in advertising, the classic advertising that they did to build their brand. How could you say no to The Economist? So I left advertising for another great brand, and I worked there for 10 years. And I worked in India, set up the India office. We did pretty well. I then went to Asia, ran Asia circulation for 2 years, and then I was in London as the chief strategy officer for the group. But my love for advertising never left me. And after that, when I left, I came back, I was doing consulting. And now I'm gone back to doing what I started my life with, It is finding solutions, marketing solutions for businesses.
Great. How did your marketing list come up? When did that germ first come to you? How did you build it? What's the story behind it?
It's another interesting question. You never know when an idea really starts germinating in your head, right? You may remember when you started it, but usually ideas are always playing in the back of your mind, subconscious, because of things that you encounter. And in my case, what happened was, over a period of time, I think I kept being in a situation, as a lot of marketers, senior marketers do, people calling me up and asking me, Suprio, can you get me a good copywriter, right? Now, this kept happening. Can I get an art director? Can you get me a copywriter? And then slowly over the last 10 years, it stopped becoming copywriters and art directors. It started becoming web designers, started becoming logo designers. And maybe that was there at the back of my mind. So I said, why do people keep asking other people for resources when this is such an established industry? I came from that industry, right? There are agencies and hundreds of them today. And you do one search and you can find 100 results to 1 million results, I guess, on Google. And why do people ask other people? And you realize that it is not uncommon. It happens all the time.
Absolutely.
Right. And so word of mouth seemed to be the source of finding professionals, especially in the digital marketing space. And it started, that is where I think I started doing some research about a couple of years back, saying, let's find out a bit about this phenomenon. Because okay, I understand that you don't want to go and hire an agency because you have to pay a monthly fee, but you can go and search for your resource, you'll get it on Google, or you can go to an existing tech platform, which is available today, big ones, and you can get it, but they're not doing that. They're still going and asking people. So we did a research. So my wife, who is also a partner in this business, Pallavi, she is from IIM Calcutta. And she is part of a group of entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs. So we said, hey, who require all these digital marketing services? Entrepreneurs are one, right? Let's ask them their experience. And we did a research. 50 odd people responded, all ladies. And there was awareness. And these are, remember, all IIM graduates, right? Not someone who's aware of what's going on. About 30% of them actually knew of other options, as in websites. But most of them who had tried websites said, you know what, we've not had a great experience. And when we probed them, they said, we get a lot of options, but I don't know whether I'm choosing the right one or not. Sometimes the experience has been good, sometimes not very good. So we just left it. So what do we do now? Well, we ask our friends. So back to word of mouth, right? So we said, this is damn interesting. So we said, all right. And then, of course, we know what all is going on in the world of during COVID, right? So this started during COVID when all of us are sitting at home, twiddling our thumbs, doing some consulting, but you're thinking about it. And you realize that what are people doing now? Okay, in this times, you're seeing someone who makes bhujiyas in Gujarat suddenly become a 50 crore brand because he's managed to put it online and he's got some distribution going, and so many stories like that, right? During the pandemic, brands been built.
Right.
G2C suddenly taking off, people talking about Shopify and Klaviyo on Twitter. I said, what's going on here? Because everybody realized that the only way they could get stuff across was through digital, right? So there is this whole phenomena happening on one side, on the demand side. And then I was thinking that we started discussing, so what's happening? Where are they getting the talent from? Are they all going to agencies? Obviously not. That's where the idea of your marketing list came. The idea is not to make a 100% automated platform. It will be a highly technologically enabled, but it is a human platform which is tech enabled rather than a pure tech play. So that's how we see it, because we realize that what we had learned, or I had learned in advertising many years back, is of immense value to when it comes to understanding a business need and matching it to the right solution. So we have had people coming to us and say, I need an Instagram growth hacker. You know how people love talking about hackers. I said, what the hell is a growth hacker? I'm sorry. So we investigated and had a conversation about the business. This was a lady who was setting up, who had already an existing online fashion brand. And I asked her, what is it that you want to do actually? And when we probed, what she actually needed was an Instagram specialist who could strategize for her. Now that's the value we add. When we talk to businesses, we listen to them, understand it, use our marketing experience, and say, oh, this is the solution for them. And that's what has been pulling customers to us, because our repeat rate right now is almost 50%. It means 50% of our customers give us more business, continuous business. So that's the background of how the idea jumped.
Great. Over the course of building this platform and developing this idea, I'm sure you would have interacted with a lot of businesses as well as a lot of freelancers. What is your understanding of the freelance industry? Where is it going? Because a lot of full-time professionals also prefer to take up side gigs, and as an industry, the freelance industry. What have been your observations about it? Where do you think it is headed now?
Oh, it's going to go into outer space. So globally, by 2023, we expect the gig economy, based on reports by the big houses like Gartner, etc., to hit about $455 billion. In India, the growth rate is even faster, but the numbers are obviously less. By 2025, we think it's going to be a $30 billion gig industry here. But what is driving it, Hetansh? Think about, globally you hear about this term, the Great Resignation. You hear about people leaving their jobs and settling down and doing their own thing, staying in Airbnbs for a month, wherever they want to live, and living a life which is as good as it was before. But if you go back in time, when we started, you are much, much, much younger than I am. But when we started our lives, we had no choice. Our parents had struggled to get us through a good education. Our job was to get a job. That was our job, and ensure that we could take care of our parents, right? And we did that very, very successfully. And hence the next generation has had a chance to live a slightly better life. Not the whole of India, but a large chunk of India, thanks to what happened from 1991 in India. We have had the fortune of some section, a large section of people whose lives have improved. So their progenies, children, have the luxury of living a slightly more comfortable life and have more choices in life, decisions that have flexibility in that they have. So now it's not unnatural for someone to say that I just don't like maths and chem, but I'm really interested in music. And they're online, gigging with people across the world, creating albums, and you hear success stories of that. They're joining global schools, the talent that India has, and becoming superstars, right? It's the same for art, we didn't have that option. There was no such option. You had to make money, right? You either did engineering, medicine, or you did commerce, right? That is it, end of story. So I'm so glad that India has improved that way. That is what has happened globally also, right? And so you have this thing of people, young people like you saying, you know what, I can do my own thing, live my life on my own terms, and I'm so good at what I do that I can make a very decent living out of it and enjoy my life exactly how I want to. And that's fantastic. I love it. I wish I had the opportunity to do that when I was young. So that's what's happening. And what happened at the pandemic has driven that trend 10x time. Simple. So what was stopping this from becoming mainstream? Corporations, organizations which are run by people like me who have worked all their life in offices, in cubicles, are used to a certain style of working. they were the ones who could not think about how can someone, if I am running my office in Bombay, how can someone living in even Pune work for me? How will he come to office? Because that was the only option. The pandemic changed that totally, right? We all know that. And the acceptance of work from home has come to corporations. And that is what has also combined with that has come to the stage where people know actually that professionals have a lot of ambitions. People encourage people to have their own interest. They turn a little bit of a blind eye to their gigs that they're doing because they know that they're doing gigs, but that's what keeps them happy. So that's the boom, and that's not going to change. I can see more and more people deciding to set up, and we talk to maybe between 3 of us, we talk to 15 freelancers a day. Okay, and they all are so happy if they are. So what does our platform do for freelancers, right? So when we asked them their source of business, you went back to the same thing, word of mouth, right? The second thing that they said is that it's very difficult to get quality jobs, right? And jobs that match what I really want to do. The third thing is I asked them, why don't you go and they're all registered on the various platforms. I said, what about the platforms? He said, well, it's become truly, we are called a marketplace. But when you think about a market in India, you get a very wrong picture, right? What happens in a market is chaos, right? And they told me exactly that that you are sent a job and you have to bid for it. That job is going out to 500 people at least. So all it has become is a bidding game, driven down. Right. So what is it that, and the good people, and we are only interested in the good freelancers, they're saying, why should I do that? I'm happy if I get 5 jobs a month. It gives my lifestyle, I get my value, and that is what I'm happy with. So then I asked them the obvious question, why are you then coming to our platform? She said, because of the promise that you have made, that you will ensure that we get quality jobs, you will get us the jobs we want to do, but most importantly, you will get us our payment. And that's the other thing about freelancing in India, at least. Payments is a big problem. And we ensure the system that we have ensures that you will always get paid, right? And it is fair on both sides, business side as well as client side. What we do is we take our payment in advance and we do not give it out to the freelancer immediately. We hold it. So if it's a 1 month cycle, then at the end of the month, on the end of the month, not after 3 days, not after 5 days, on the end of the month, the freelancer submits his or her bill. On the same evening, she gets or he gets her money. That's how we do it.
Great. Digging a little into the model. So I assume that the servicing happens at your end probably, and the delivery happens from the end of the freelancers, and the businesses are the ones who, would have come to you with their requirements. Is that a correct understanding of the model?
It's a classic marketplace. There's a supply side and demand side, and the platform sits in between. So you have to remember that we have done very well, but we are still only 6 months old. When we started this, our thought was, we need to learn what are people actually looking for, understand exactly the needs, which is what a marketer should be doing anyway for any business, and then make sure that the model that we are presenting is most appropriate, right? So that is what we are in the process still now. So the 3 partners do everything themselves. We don't have a single employee. Why are we doing that? It's very hard work for us, but because our learning is exponential. Every day we learn a new thing that we can understand. So what we do in parallel every week on a Saturday, we have a meeting where we on a Zoom call and we record ourselves and we only focus on what did we learn. Because what we are doing in parallel is creating workflows. These are the workflows that will get tech-enabled. So that is where the technology will come in and will help us scale. Okay, so that is how it is going there.
Great. So your message to fellow advertisers, fellow freelancers, basis your learnings recently, basis the fact that you've traveled the world, you worked on both the sides of the table. You've been with an agency, you worked on a brand, and now you're working exhaustively with freelancers. What are your takeaways? What would you say to fellow advertisers, or maybe to your own younger self?
Interesting. I think one of the things that has helped me in my career, and I think that doesn't change, that's the nature of it changes. And what has helped me a lot to make this bridge travel from, as I call myself, a marketer who's traveled from the analog to the digital, right? That's how I look at myself. The one big advice I'll give them is you have to upskill yourself all the time. And I'm not talking about upskill as in really doing hundreds of courses. You have to be really on the ball on what's the change. The change is just too much. When we started in advertising, what was the options? Print, radio, TV, and outdoor. End of story. If you go Google search on channels of marketing today, you get this beautiful little things, millions. You have to keep in touch with them. I do. That's why I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and okay, I can't be on all of them, but I try to be in as many because you want to learn as a marketeer what's going on. Unfortunately, in India, there is no TikTok anymore. So there's enough of it on YouTube, right? So you have to understand what's going on and not just be there, you have to read. There are experts across the world who are writing all the time. Another part of being a gig economy. So many writers are leaving and joining various platforms and writing for themselves. There's some fantastic writers there who are telling you what is happening to technology, to marketing, to advertising. Are we doing, each of us, learning and keeping up with the times? That's the only way to survive. And some of the things that you have to actually do proper courses to skill up and make sure that you're up there. How many times does the algorithm of Facebook and Google change in a year? It is countless. How will you work in this industry if you don't keep yourself abreast of the changes? You don't have to be an expert, but you have to know what's going on so that you can use that with an expert, right? I'm not an expert as in tech expert on various platforms, but I know exactly what is going on at all times. So when I'm talking to a freelancer who is an expert, say in SEM or SEO, I know enough to be able to talk to that person and understand what the client requires and match. And that, I think, is what is most important. I'm not going to get into how the advertising industries get going, etc. That's somebody else's problem, not mine. We don't cater to most of our segment is not the same as the existing advertising industry segment. We are looking at startups and SMEs who are by nature going to give you jobs which are almost like projects. Some of them will give you long-term jobs, but most will be giving you projects. Those are the ones which are most difficult for agencies to handle. So that's our space.
Superb. Lastly, sir, what is your vision for your marketing list? Where do you want to take it? Where do you see it a few years down the line?
Interesting. As I said, when we started with India. I had this thought that marketing always requires context of the environment in which it has been set. So it's true to some extent. As 6 months have gone by, I'm realizing that certain aspects of digital marketing do not require the context so much. So if you were to design, let me explain. If you were to design a logo for a sari shop in Chennai, it is difficult to imagine American designer, unless she has or he has done a lot of studies on India, to be able to understand the cultural context of how a sari shop logo should look in Chennai. Right. So there's a context, right? But when it comes to SEO, when it comes to building a website, when it comes to performance marketing, when it comes to social media management, these are the things which are most in demand today. When it comes to content writing, maybe there's a little emphasis required. But on all the other 4 that I mentioned, the context is not that relevant. The technical capability and your ability to how good you are at your job is the most important thing. So one of the things that's happening is we are beginning to look at markets in the US and the UK also. So The vision is very simple. It's a huge opportunity. The same problems are faced by small and medium businesses. The same problems are faced by freelancers and gig workers across the world. We hope to play a small role in that in the future. At the moment, large part of our business is focused on India, but in the next 3 months, we'll start focusing a bit on the US. In fact, 3 days back, we got our first US client. Interesting, because the match of the client is exactly what we want. This is a person who's based in Boston, has a laundry cleaning service, and amazingly, it is extremely competitive. There are 6 laundry cleaning services online that you can book your laundry for washing, and that's a big thing in the US, online. And we are helping him to find him, and we found him an SEM expert, and they're doing campaigns out of India for the brand. It's, I think in Boston and other cities. So those are the kind of people we hope to target and brands to target in the future. So our vision is to keep growing. One of the challenges we think will happen soon is on the freelance side. While there are a lot of talent, I think they will require training to be able to work in a more professional manner in the way they present their case, how they manage their time, how they present reports to clients. And we might think about backwardly integrating into that area of education. And that may be something that it could become a nice supply for us and for the world. So that's a possibility, but that's very, very down the line. Right now, we are focused on building the platform and proving that it can scale and that it can scale profitably.
Superb. I believe we've gotten covered here. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your ideas and concepts on your marketing list, for your comments on the freelancers, the industry, where it's going, your inputs on advertising and all the topics around it. On behalf of everyone who is going to be consuming this interview, I'd again like to thank you. I'm sure that the audience is going to come check out the platform, get in touch with you or maybe one of your partners, and I'm hoping for a successful collaboration there as well.